Hello, everybody. I want to welcome our returning families back as we prepare for a new school year and extend a warm welcome to all of the new families that are calling St. Patrick home. You'll see in the following presentation by Mr. Sturtzel the results of a comprehensive and thorough process of determining what's the best and the safest way for us to return to school. It's been quite a summer, quite a past few months, and all of us have struggled in different ways. And as we prepare for welcoming our students back safely in a healthy and holy way, as we focus on the whole person and the new processes and ways that we'll have to be doing things, we want to remember the importance of every child, of their well-being, of their growth, of their development. And we're glad to partner with each of you, our families, to be able to do this in a safe and prudent way. And so as we return, we're excited. I'm really excited to be able to see everybody again. And of course, our hearts long for the day when everybody will be back in the building in a normal way. But for now, this is an exceptionally good process. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. Thank you for your investment in your child's future and in the community of St. Patrick. We are St. Pat's, and we trust that God is with us and that He will guide us and lead us as we move forward, using the best of our talents and abilities and wisdom to be able to create a safe and secure environment for our children, where they can learn and grow and reach the potential for which God has created them. I'll now let Mr. Sturtzel go through the details of our plan, and we do welcome your feedback and your input, and he'll have opportunities for that in the coming days. God bless and welcome home.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Father Jeff, for that introduction and for all of your support this summer. It has definitely been the most unique summer that we've had here at St. Patrick Catholic School, and I know that all schools and parishes can say the same. So we've had just challenge after challenge. We continue to be flexible and nimble and work through those together, and it's been an amazing testament to our community with all the support. So Father Jeff, thank you. Father Stephen, thank you. We've had actually 4 school board meetings this summer alone, which, we've never had one summer of a school board meeting. So that's been amazing. I've had 2 faculty meetings in the past 4 weeks over Zoom with over 50 people participating. So that just shows the commitment and dedication of St. Pat's and what we're doing to bring the kids back to school. So that is what we're here to talk about today. And it's more of a presentation around the start of school, what we feel like is our best plan moving forward for reopening. I have shared this summer details about temp checks and what the classroom will look like and wearing masks. And I know there are still questions about that. We'll continue to share more information. A lot of that is changing. Contact tracing, those kinds of things are being updated by the week. So we'll continue to share that out. But today is more about reopening, when we want to do that, how we want it to look, what we feel like is the safest and best strategy for the 2021 school year. So as I have been thinking about opening up school and welcoming back the students, one thing that hits me like a ton of bricks is that when we start school, the students will not have been on campus in person in the classroom for 160 days. So we're talking 5 to 6 months. The summer lag is typically a couple of months, right? And we still know that there's gaps in learning during the summer if you're not keeping up with things. And so we're talking about 5 to 6 months of the kids not being in school. And not only that, but school's going to look totally different. It's going to be a new environment for myself, for all of the educators in our building, for parents, for students. It's all going to look and feel different. And so we have to keep those things in mind. So I've developed what I would feel like are 5 essential goals for our community as we reopen school. Number 1 is we want to partner with our families as we always do. That's our mission. It is a partnership with you in educating your child. And also as educators, we're partnering as colleagues. And we want to welcome our students home. First and foremost, we want them to feel safe, to feel valued and respected. That segues to point number 2, is to follow all of these new safety protocols that have changed quite a bit between now and May in a way that mitigates risk and promotes learning to the best of our ability. We know that wearing a mask can be uncomfortable. And I know for myself that I battle that on a day-to-day basis, coming to work, going to the store. All of these changes, everything from lunch and recess to entering and exiting the building to using the bathroom, all of these things are changing. And so we want to make sure we have a really good plan. We communicate that plan, we practice it, and we help the kids feel comfortable with this new environment. Number 3 is developing our students' faith formation, developing their character, teaching them the Catholic faith. We know that at home it's been chaotic and crazy. There's a chance you have not been able to do that as well as you would like. Praying before meals, praying, going to Mass, right? We weren't even allowed to go to Mass for several months. So developing our students' faith, reintroducing them in some ways to religion class, and praying at the start of the day, and praying before we eat, and praying together as a class, and having intentions, participating in the sacraments, all of these things that we've been missing, that we've been aching for as a body of Christ. We want to make sure we're making that a focal point as we come back. Number 4 is assessing our students in the essentials of each subject, and then directly targeting instruction so that we can help every child grow. That's going to be a tremendous challenge, even more so than normal, having that lag that I've already mentioned. So it's crucial that when students do come back in person, that we find out where they are. We do that every year anyways. We've really documented and transitioned what did we cover during distance learning in the spring, and what had we have hoped to maybe cover at a more in-depth level, but we weren't able to do that because of closing and the pandemic. So it's essential that we assess our students where they are and then develop a plan moving forward. And we know that every student is going to be in a different place. 5th and final is to build up our community and provide that holistic experience that we know is so important and what makes us special as a Catholic school for your family. And we have to make sure that we're doing that in the right way as we're welcoming everyone back here very soon. So those are 5 essential goals have helped us as a faculty, as a leadership team, as a school board, plan for these reopening phases that we're liking to call them. So that leads us to the areas that we need to plan for, all the safety procedures, the health of our students and staff, the Catholic identity of our school, teaching and learning in all phases. That's distance learning or remote learning. That's hybrid of in-person and distance, and of course 100% in person. And then our communication strategies, how we plan to communicate with you, how you're going to communicate with your teacher, how the student needs to communicate with their teacher. Of course, we do that from year to year, but it's going to be even more crucial this year. And so making sure that all of us are on the same page and planning for that. We have phases to plan. We need to plan orientation to again, re-enter our students into the building in this school environment and in this new environment. A hybrid or blended learning model if we need to be in school in a reduced capacity, 100% in-person instruction, and then NTI or remote learning. I know that for many of our parents, when we were doing distance learning in the spring, they would like to have seen maybe more accountability, more rigor in what we were doing. And then we also had parents who felt like what we were doing was far too extreme, and so there's always a wide spectrum in these cases, especially in a school of our size. So we really wanted to start with grace over grades in the spring. We wanted to make sure people were doing okay. We had people losing jobs. I know we have people who are still looking for jobs. And so we really wanted to make sure we were caring for one another in the spring. In the fall, that of course will continue, but we also want to make sure we're holding our students accountable. Deadlines, attendance, being present for live sessions. Those are all things that will look and feel different in the fall, and will hold our students accountable in whatever type of phase or environment we're in at that time. So our teachers are working hard starting now on that, and we'll be communicating those plans through the coming weeks as we get ready to start school up. It's been very stressful this summer. You feel like you have so many things coming at you. You're really not in control. What is the governor going to do? What is the superintendent going to do? the cases are spiking, the cases are flattening out. And so in the last couple of weeks in particular, as we've met with different stakeholders and as a school board, we really wanted to try to take some more ownership and say, listen, we've got the blessing of the Archdiocese to do this the way we feel like is going to be best for our community. And so that's what we've done in creating this plan. So I had this kind of, what I would say, a cheesy little picture, but a picture of us being in the driver's seat. And I think as our faculty and staff has heard this plan for reopening, we've been able to take a deep breath and know that we are going to be able to work through this together. And this is our best foot forward. So reopening plan is, think about it in phases. And so we have the opening of school. We have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Phase 1, I'm calling orientation. Phase 2, we're calling a hybrid or blended learning model. Phase 3 is an in-person instruction, 100%. Phase 4 is down the road. We won't talk much about that today, but that's our ideal setting, what we had in February of 2020 and before, where it was pre-COVID, and so phase 4 will be post-COVID, 100% in person with no masks and not these social distancing procedures that we'll be following this school year. But due to all the planning that we feel like we need to do this well, and also due to the construction that is continuing to go on, and it's going well, but there have been some slight delays, and we're trying to make sure things are finished at the end of the month. I can say that our first grade, preschool, JK rooms, our entire middle school, our front office, Schindler Hall and JP2 are all currently under deep construction and not accessible to our staff. So I'm actually today coming to you live from my temporary office is temporarily closed due to power outages due to construction. So I continue to kind of have makeshift offices and move around to be mobile so I can keep working and stay connected. So that's added to some of our challenges. And what we don't want to do is have our teachers not have the time they need to collaborate, to work on their classrooms, especially with the new guidelines and setups that we need to have in place. And so what we've decided to do is to delay that first day of school. That opening day is going to be pushed back to August 18th. So originally it was Wednesday, August 12th. We're pushing that back to Tuesday, August 18th. That will give us some extra time to prepare as a faculty for what we're about to endure here in the 2021 school year, to collaborate, and also just to make sure our facility is looking up to our expectations like it typically does, where everything's being cleaned out from construction with a deep cleaning, as well as our maintenance staff who strips and wax all of the floors before we come back to start school. So we feel like this is the right move for St. Pat's. I know other Catholic schools and of course public schools too have looked at delaying their original start date due just to planning and preparation. So we have that in addition to the heavy construction that's going on this summer. So that's the initial reopening plan, is pushing back that start date to the 18th. Phase 1 is orientation, and phase 2 is the hybrid blended learning model. So I'm going to go through each of those in more detail here in just a moment. Here's another snapshot of what we're looking at in terms of timelines. We'll be sure to give you these details and dates so that you as a family can plan for childcare and other things around your work schedules. But phase 1, we mentioned, is orientation. That's the first 8 days of school. So that's August 18th to the 28th. And then phase 2 is a hybrid model. It's the safest form after NTI. We'll begin in-person teaching and learning through rigorous instruction and assessment. And that's going to go from August 31st to September 11th is the plan, at least for those first 2 weeks. Phase 3 would start September 14th. Moving on, if everything goes well, that's the ideal setting during the pandemic, where we're all together, almost 700 of us, if you count adults and staff, in addition to the children. Phase 4, probably 21 plus, where it's post-COVID, and we're all together in a different environment. So here's phase 1. And again, I mentioned it's August 18th to the 28th. here are the essentials that we want to make sure we do an excellent job of as we welcome these students back who have not been with us for 5 to 6 weeks, months. Student drop-off and health screening process. That's all going to be different. Mask wearing and social distance procedures, classroom community development, classroom routines, classroom procedures, technology setup, right? Especially for those students who will have Chromebooks either every day or even if they have their own Chromebook, if they're in 6th grade and up. Grading policies and what those are going to look like. Our Catholic identity, again, getting reacquainted with our faith as a school and practicing our different elements of Catholic identity. The deep cleaning procedures that will be happening. When will we be washing our hands more often? When are we supposed to wash our hands? How's that going to work? If we use supplies, how will they be cleaned? If we get up and go to another classroom, how are those desks going to be cleaned? What are some of the sanitization procedures that will happen, not just before and after school, but even during the school day? Lunch and recess procedures will be different this year, going over what those need to look like. A new school schedule, announcements, the periods. The teachers will be switching this year more than the students to help mitigate the risk of spread the virus through germs and other things, right? So all of that is new. Student dismissal, of course, at the end of the day, and then just the basic parent communication and what that needs to look like. So what we want to do for orientation is to split the student body into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, so that students will be coming into a school where we'll be able to better mitigate, better control the environment as we start this thing, rather than inviting everybody in on the very first day, trying to do all of these things well and kind of hope for the best. So Group A would go the first 2 days, August 18th and 19th. And we want to do that because we feel like, hey, you've learned all these new procedures. We want you to come back the next day and practice it. We're going to do it again. Then we would switch. So the Thursday and Friday, August 20th and 21st, Group B would come. And those teachers would do the same thing with that group of students. It's a smaller group. They'd be able to have some more movement. They'd be able to get to know the teacher a little bit better, deepen that relationship from the beginning, and just have better control of going over those routines and procedures. So the teacher will do the same thing with Group B as Group A. Now you're probably wondering, what will the other group be doing while they're not at school? For this orientation phase, it will be light in terms of, work at home, homework. It won't be new content. It may be some just building classroom community, maybe reinforcing some skills, seeing where kids are, but it will be light in terms of the off-campus work during those first 2 weeks. The second week, Group A comes back Monday and Tuesday, August 24th and 25th, and then Group B comes on that Wednesday and Thursday. That Friday would be a remote learning day. It would allow our teachers to meet in the morning and debrief about how everything is going, and then interact with their classes virtually for that day, and they would have that planned going into the weekend. Now, I know there are other Catholic schools, quite a few, who are doing an ease-in approach. And one thing I will say that I've noticed and connecting with those principals and those plans is that they're looking at inviting kind of like a grade by grade back. In terms of controlling just the overall numbers, the general numbers of the school, that makes some sense. But where I feel like this approach is better for us is that we are essentially slicing our groups in half, so that a classroom with 25 students is only going to be around 12 students in this orientation and hybrid phase. So just much more control for the teacher to be able to, again, get to know those students on a deeper level, and maybe not be so focused on the stringent safety protocols that will have to be in place when all those students are in the classroom. Rather than, if we brought 2 grades back one day and then 2 grades back the next day, you're still asking a lot of those students and that teacher on that first day. You're just delaying that first day. So I feel like it's a very student-centered and teacher-centered approach in splitting the student body that way. We would do that by families. So all families who have multiple children, we'd make sure that you're together so that you're coming on the same days. And we'll just go down the list and start that. We expect to have what pool you'll be in 1 week from this Friday. So that would be, I believe, July 31st. We'll be sure to have that information to you, if not sooner, so you'll know what days your family will be for the in-person components of instruction. I wanted to share this picture with everybody. This is what we would call an average classroom size, between 800 to 900 square feet. It's not the smallest room. It's not the largest room. And actually, if you had Mrs. Brittany Howe last year, this is her classroom. We set this up this summer, and this is one angle, and here's another angle. These desks are 6 feet apart on all, around, and it's a little bit disheartening in some ways to see that they have to all face the same way. These are following all the safety guidelines for COVID-19. And if you haven't already started counting, it's 14 desks. And so if you imagine, we have anywhere from 16 to 25 students in a homeroom, depending on the grade and enrollment. And so anywhere from 16 to 25 desks. This is 14 desks. So imagine adding another 10 to 11 here and spacing them out in a similar manner. It is a lot to ask, and we know that is, and we know that classrooms across the world, their square footage may not allow for 6 feet apart with a typical enrollment size. And so while we want to strive to get to that 100% in person, we do feel like this is the correct approach as we ease into the school year, all things considered, to help everybody feel more comfortable as we get started. So, and you're probably wondering, so what is it going to look like when 25 kids are in there? Will they have to wear a mask more often? And they will. We are looking at, of course, spreading groups out, using Schindler Hall, using a large meeting room, using the church. We're looking at getting picnic tables and maybe canopies outside, and having some outdoor classrooms when we are able to do that. Spreading out into different rooms if we can. Also, we've purchased PPE for everything from face shields to masks to sanitizer to possibly dividers, where there's different versions of that where they'll help the students to be separated, and maybe they can wear a mask or take a mask off at that point. So we'll continue to share more of those details in the coming weeks, but I think this is a nice visual for us to see of what these desks look like at 6 feet apart, and what they may look like in other classrooms as you start to visualize that. So that's orientation phase. That's phase one. And then we're going to go into phase two now, which would start on August 31st. And it's more of a hybrid model. So what we'd like to do is do this for 2 weeks. And the good Lord willing, everything goes extremely well. We feel very confident. We've checked all the boxes. Health screening's going well. Kids are feeling good. Lunch time is going well. Hopefully we haven't had any positive cases or any outbreaks in any of the grades. And, potentially the quarantining has been minimal, if not zero. And we're saying, hey, we're ready. We're ready to go to 100% in person. Then we would start that. We will go to phase three. But here's what we want phase two to look like and what the essentials of that phase are. First, it's still smaller groups. That improves our safety and mitigates risk. It will enable teachers to focus more on the relationship building, on assessment, on instruction, allow students to move around a little bit better, maybe not feel so claustrophobic in that classroom. It may be able to decrease the amount of school masses. Right now, if with 100% in person, we're looking at having 3 school masses a week. We can't all be together, so we would divide the school by grade into 3 groups, and we would still want our students to come to Mass and fully participate in the Eucharistic celebration. So we hope to do that every week. Off-campus groups will be able to get acclimated through this model to the distance learning, should we have to go 100% to that, and also, or if we're in a hybrid phase. So what does it look like? How does Google Classroom feel, or Seesaw? How is this going to work? How can I work on things from home and then get feedback from my teacher? And also, this component is available if a family is interested in opting out and doing 100% online, maybe just to start the year, or maybe somebody's sick, or someone is immunocompromised at their home. call us, reach out to the school office. We have talked with a few families who are interested in doing that. So please call the office, and we're keeping a list right now, and we'll work with each family about what that might look like and if we're going to be able to suit those needs. So we hope we can accommodate them, as well as students who maybe are being quarantined or who are actually sick. And so this model lends itself well to that. We'll go into more detail in the coming weeks about how distance learning is going to look like, and what teachers are going to be doing, what platforms and all that. They're working on all that right now, so can't share all those details in this presentation, but just know that that it is coming, and you will receive all of that communication. So that is phase 2 in a nutshell. And again, we feel like we can assess our students in this environment more effectively, find out where they are, get to know them better, and really establish that foundation at a reduced capacity versus just sort of pushing, hey, we all want to be back. We all want to be 100% in person. And so, trying to do that from day one, we feel like is not the safest and not the most effective approach for St. Pat's. So that's hybrid 2. Phase 2, we would keep families in the same pool for this hybrid model. And so we've gotten a lot of feedback, and our faculty and staff has met about it. We've met about it as a school board, and that phase 2 model is going to continue to be that Monday, Tuesday on for Group A, Wednesday, Thursday on for Group B as in person. Friday will be distance learning, remote learning, with interaction with the teacher, as well as opportunities to work on things. And again, we hope that this model is just for 2 weeks, and then we can go to phase 3 of in-person instruction 100%. If we feel like we had a lot of issues and things arise during this phase, we would communicate to you that we're going to do this for another 2 weeks. The other thing that's nice about this strategy is we need to build this hybrid model in case we need it later as well. So let's say we go back to in-person instruction 100%, but something happens during the school year and we need to go back to a reduced capacity. We don't want to go fully online, but we need to take a step back and go to a reduced capacity. Having built this now, we'll be able to come back to phase 2. We'll say, hey, we're going to activate phase 2, and we'll do that for 2 weeks and then revisit it. So again, we feel like this is a smart approach in building this now so that we can use it whenever we feel like we need to during the school year. So that's phase 2. Again, hopefully we'll transition to phase 3 in mid-September. For in-person instruction, we'll follow all of the COVID-19 protocols at that time with social distancing, health screenings, all of those things. Students will benefit from being in person on a more regular and consistent basis. Of course, we also know that it's tough to have the students at home depending on your work life, and we know that that's a lot to ask, but we do feel like that this is the best approach, and we want to work towards this 100% in-person instruction, hopefully sooner than later. We'll still have online tools and components as a regular part of our classroom if we are 100% in person. They'll be available to students who are not in person. And we know we're going to have more students who are sick. We know that that parents are going to probably play it safe if they're showing some symptoms and to keep the children home. And we know that there may be a quarantine situation where a child is asymptomatic, but maybe they had to do a test, and so they have to stay home because a sibling is sick, or mom and dad is sick, or they're at a birthday party and a cousin was sick. We know that stuff is going to come up this year from time to time, and it's going to be a challenge. But building this online component will help everybody stay connected and continue moving through our curriculum throughout the year. So that is phase 3. We talked about phase 4 as a post-COVID-19 with instruction every day, 1,062 hours. We always go over that, 175 days, right, of in-person. But this year it won't be like that. And we just want to do our best to socially distant, to stop the spread of the virus, to continue to educate our kids in our community. And hopefully phase 4 comes sooner than later, and all of the advantages of that we'll be able to enjoy. So just to recap, Phase one is the orientation phase, welcoming students back, kind of onboarding and caring for our kids with smaller groups and kind of teaching them school again, getting familiar. Phase two is this hybrid model where rigorous learning and instruction will be taking place, but it will be on and off campus. We want to build that for and run that to start, and then we can always set that phase in motion at other parts of the year if we need to. And then phase three is that ideal setting during the pandemic, which means that all students will be present on campus following strict guidelines. Ideally, that will start September 14th, and we'll move forward with that for as much of the year as we can. Just to summarize, I feel like Catholic schools were built for this. We were built to be autonomous and to know what our community needs in particular, how we can pull or execute a strategy. It's driven through our community needs and partnering with one another. And I can't thank the school board enough for all of their time and input throughout the summer as we've talked about so many different scenarios. And we'll continue to share those different things with you in the coming weeks. But opening up fully on our original start date is certainly what we wanted to do, but the circumstances in the current environment require a different approach. And so I hope this presentation helped you see that some. We're still in the process. We haven't been able to narrow it down just yet, but for facility request purposes, but there'll be some time next week where I'll be available to answer more questions about this plan as well as what the school year will look like in general. I know people and our teachers too, we've been talking about so many scenarios. What happens if a kid gets sick? How is this going to look? And so we'll continue to share all of that. We're still waiting on some contact tracing information as an example. The diocese will have a document they'll share with us soon. So there's so much to plan for and to communicate with you, and we'll continue to do that. Easing in will allow students and teachers to establish those expectations and just connect, on a deeper level through smaller groups in a more powerful way and in a way that should help students feel safer and more comfortable with the changes they are experiencing. One thing I haven't mentioned is that preschool is separate from this. Preschool can act independently of the school, so they will not be doing a half reduced capacity situation. Kindergarten will be participating in the orientation phase, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that hybrid model. I know our teachers are excited about the chance to get deeper with those smaller groups. They feel like it will really be important in establishing that foundation for the rest of the year. So we do plan on doing that through kindergarten for orientation, but those grade levels will also be communicating throughout. But the hybrid model will for sure be first grade and up. First grade is one of our bigger classes with classrooms that will be pretty tight. So we're looking at lots of PPE and spreading those kids out as much as we can. So that is a summary there for the reopening phase. I really appreciate everyone's support. I've been humbled by everyone's input and support. I know some people have reached out to me, hey, we're praying for you. We know it's not been easy, and this hasn't been easy for anybody. So continue to pray for all of our families. And I know Father Jeff has been a tremendous leader for our parish and helping us to challenging us, hey, where do we see God in the midst of all of this? And how can we connect with our families through this journey? So Father Jeff, thank you so much for all of your support. And I look forward to continuing the conversation with our families as we approach August 18th and all the back to school stuff starts to come out in the coming weeks. So thanks everyone. God bless. And thanks for all your prayers.